Morning. Oh, good afternoon.
Hi, Joy.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Oh, love the lighting.
Yeah. My dira is packed on the side.
Good stuff, good stuff.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to check the lighting.
Yeah,
The audio is good.
yes, it is.
I will not be presenting. You've received the slides, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so I'll not be presenting, but I'll be using them to guide as I'm talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Excellent, excellent.
Anything else? Also send the streaming link once it is already up on Facebook. Put it in the chat so that I'll send it to our comms team so that they can share it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Will do.
All right. Is it a
All set.
webinar or it's a meeting?
How to put it? It's more like a meeting, not a webinar.
So it's interactive, huh?
Yes.
Cool. Super.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Sawa.
So what do you need from me?
Nothing. Relax.
Okay.
Have some tea or whatever you have before you start.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Super.
I'll try and just
I can go on Black and you just send me a chat when you want me to begin, eh? Or when you begin.
Yeah, we'll begin at exactly 1. But
okay.
What we're going to do right now, in about 10 minutes, we'll start streaming live on Facebook. But we usually play something else on the background.
That's okay. So just send me that link so that I will share it with all our comms team.
No problem.
All right then.
All right.
So I'll just go on Black. When you're ready, just let me know.
Will do.
Super.
Thanks.
Mm.
Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you're joining us. This is the Commonwealth Businesswomen Network in Kenya's weekly webinars that we host every Wednesday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And we're very delighted that you're all able to join us. So we're going to start off with a short word of prayer, and I would like to invite Elizabeth Mweni to lead us in that. Elizabeth, karibu sana. Winnie, if you could unmute, please.
I'll just kick in.
All right.
She might be having some technical problems.
All right,
This
thank
is
you.
Rose Ninja. Let's bow our heads and pray. Dear God, our Father, we come before you this afternoon with words of praise, with words of
Susan,
thanks.
I think we've lost everybody. Should I pray?
I can still hear. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was in the middle
can.
of prayer, Nana.
Okay, great.
I'll start it again for emphasis, maybe. Okay. Let's bow our heads once more and pray.
Okay.
Dear God, Lord, our Father, we come before you this afternoon with words of thanks and praise. We thank you that you brought us up to this far, dear God. And we want to put this meeting into your hands. Bless it so that all that is discussed here is for the sake of business women and for the sake of Commonwealth and for the sake of our country, dear Lord. Glorify this meeting. May your presence be felt in it, and may all we do be for the sake of humanity. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
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 Amen. Thank you, Rose. Too many prayers.
I tell you.
We are all eager to pray.
Yes.
We need
Yes,
it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the prayers, and welcome everyone joining us today. If you're joining us on Facebook, joining us on Zoom, if this is your first time on our platform, and if you're one of our regulars, we are very, very thrilled that you are here with us this afternoon. Now, the Commonwealth Businesswomen Network in Kenya is all about women's leadership and economic empowerment. And I believe one of the major ways that you can empower any woman or anyone out there is through knowledge. You know, knowledge is power. And our discussion today really, really goes into what knowledge really is about, especially when it comes to open science. This could be a term that's foreign to some of us, and I can't wait to hear all about it, but maybe some are familiar with it. But basically, it's a discussion or an approach that makes scientific research and data available. And also the dissemination of the same and accessibility to the society is made possible through this movement that is called open science. And with this in place, you find that innovations and the transfer of knowledge and also public disclosures and engagements are increased because of that. And on a global scale, it can promote collaborative efforts, and the transfer of knowledge is actually quite fast. So with that in place, when you think about it, especially on the global scale, the result is a better understanding of the challenges or the opportunities that require the coordinated international actions and more effective ways of identifying the solutions. So this is a very, very crucial topic. And especially when you think about what we've been going through with COVID-19, we're going to hear all about it shortly. Thus, this particular topic, which is the benefits of open science to human capital and global development, is very, very key. We're looking forward to that. But before we get there, as I mentioned, this is hosted by the Commonwealth Businesswomen Network in Kenya. And to tell us a little bit about the organization, especially for those who are not very, very familiar, and also to give the welcome remarks, I'm quite honored to invite our chairperson, who is also the Chief Operations Officer for the Commonwealth Businesswomen Network International, and that is Nana Wanjau. Nana, karibu sana.
Asante, Susan, and you look lovely. I may have missed the memo. I see Rose is also in blue.
Right. I know. Sorry.
There must be hate speech going on. I didn't receive the memo. Joy and I did not receive the memo that it was a blue day today. I echo Susan and indeed welcome you to Commonwealth Business Women Network Kenya, where we welcome you by saying karibuni sana, and we say jambo wherever you are on this planet in this season. We hope you are keeping safe as we continue to encourage each other to keep social distancing, to keep washing those hands frequently, and of course, let's keep wearing those masks, especially if we are up and about. This is a platform that is free, that is open, that is consistent for women, for men, and youth. It's a place we come weekly every Wednesday, 1 p.m. East African time, where to get our weekly nourishment, so to speak. On this platform, we are educated or re-educated. We are reminded and challenged and provoked beyond our comfort zone. So you need to diarize this platform, block it so that you just do not miss the Wednesday session. Susan did touch on our vision as CBWN, which is focused on women's leadership and women's economic empowerment. But I will tell you a little bit about Commonwealth Business Women Network Kenya and who we really are. We are not a standalone entity. We are part of a bigger international organization, and we are called a ground partner. Commonwealth Business Women Network Ground Partner Kenya is part of CBWN, which was originally established by the Commonwealth Secretariat and the Commonwealth Business Council in 2002. So we turn 20 next year. CBWN is now an accredited organization and community interest company, directly recognized by 54 governments across 6 continents. We are committed to advancing the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 5 and the Commonwealth Charter. CBWN is focused on encouraging, enabling, and embedding women in leadership and women's economic empowerment through our work in talent, training, and trade. We call those our 3 T's: talent, training, and trade. So we are on a mission indeed, a very large mission. The Commonwealth is home to 1 billion women. That is a ready network right there for us as business women. So our mission is to get the Kenyan business women to connect, collaborate, and do commerce with the 1 billion women network in the Commonwealth. And we are way on our mission in doing that. I will explain what we have in store so that you may also plug in as we work our mission on a day-to-day basis. Coming up is the Commonwealth Women Entrepreneurs Summit, the inaugural Commonwealth Women Entrepreneurs Summit. It was rescheduled to May 19 and 20. Just almost 3 weeks from now. Be ready for that, and for any registration requirements, all our social media platforms will provide that. We have the Commonwealth e-marketplace that is already onboarding exhibitors. This Commonwealth e-marketplace is free, and it gives women and youth an opportunity to showcase their goods and services. The Commonwealth e-marketplace will be part of the inaugural Commonwealth Women Entrepreneurs Summit, What this simply means is that the exhibitors on our e-market platform will be able to receive delegates, will be able to showcase their goods and services to the 1,500 delegates that will be attending the summit. This is a huge opportunity for our exhibitors. And I suggest if you're selling any good or services, this is a platform you want to be part of. Look out for the links that will be shared on social media from Monday, this coming Monday. Having said that, because of now we are all going digital, next week, as you may have seen in the flyers earlier, we have on this same platform on Wednesday 1 p.m. a digital service tax conversation. Very timely. We want to make sure the business women on this platform, the business women on our Commonwealth e-marketplace that we will be positioning to showcase during the Commonwealth Women Entrepreneur Summit, that they are in legal standing and understanding of our obligations as taxpayers from employer point of view, employee point of view, business owner. We do not want to be caught in the dark. I will end there with my introductions by again saying karibuni sana. Karibuni sana to Commonwealth Business Women Network Kenya. And we say jambo as we welcome you. Joy, it is wonderful to see you here. You are no stranger to CBWN Kenya. And we are very, very proud of you, Joy, in your new appointment. I'm sure the introductions are coming just in a minute. Joy will be sitting with some of the most eminent scientists, researchers in the world in scientific publishing. Ably so, I say, she'll be representing Africa, and proudly so as well. Joy, we are so proud of you once again. Thank you for representing us women and shining our flag right there on the African continent. Just know we got your back. Susan and the team, thank you so much. Glad to be here. I'm really eager to listen to what Joy has got to share with us today. Back to you, Susan.
All right. Thank you so much, Chairperson, for the welcome remarks and also for pointing out how crucial Joy is, and especially to this discussion. That's why we had to get her. Anything to do with open science, she is the expert. So allow me now to introduce another member of the Programs and Trainings Committee at the Commonwealth Business Women Network in Kenya, who's going to tell us a little bit more about Joy and also to officially welcome her to start her presentation. So let me welcome Rose Nginja.
Thank you, Susan. And it's such a great pleasure to be the one introducing you, Joy, today. It's actually a joy. Joy Owango is an experienced, award-winning founding director of the Training Center in Communication, TCC Africa. TCC Africa, it's not as simple as it sounds. And Joy, you'll probably just spend half a minute more to elaborate more on what our chair lady has said about that, about you and about that trust. This trust is registered in Kenya and set up in 2006. It is the first African-based training center to teach effective communication skills to scientists. TCC Africa is in partnership with the University of Nairobi, Kenya, and provides capacity support in improving African researchers' output and visibility through training in scholarly and science communication. Joy has a demonstrated history of working in higher education in both private, university, and non-governmental sector. She was a successful higher education practitioner with Clarivate Analytics and worked with the following governments including Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Mauritius, Ghana, Senegal, Burkina Faso, where she created foundational opportunities valued at about 1.3 million US dollars. As the director of TCC Africa, she's currently working with all 15 African countries that have committed to spending 1% of their GDP in higher education, research, and development. Beyond this, Joy has successfully created global North-South collaborations, where her center is providing equitable access to open source research discovery solutions to this she does to African governments and their respective academic communities. In addition to this, Joy sits on the board of Arxiv, Africa's only preprint repository. As a project partner, they support African researchers and institutes on how they can improve their data output, sovereignty, and visibility through effective use of preprints and personal identifiers. Joy currently also sits on the steering committee of the International Science Council's steering group for the project on the future of scientific publishing. Her latest achievement is higher education and research capacity in Africa was recognized by the Organization of Women in Science for the Developing World by UNESCO during this year's International Day for Women in Science. And she's given us the reference to that, which we'll put up in the chat shortly. So in short, that is our guest for today, Joy Owango. And as I can see, she's prepared to give us more based on that little introduction that we've given of her. So over to you, Joy. Go for it.
Okay. Thank you, Rose. Thanks for the kind introduction. Welcome everyone to today's session. I'll be taking you through the benefits of open science on human capital and global development. So as Susan had introduced earlier on, open science has become integral to research, into research, but also has become integral literally to global development in the world as we know it today. Mainly because for the longest time, for anything to happen, most research outputs, a lot of information was going behind paywalls. And now we've come to realize that open science is a driver to helping increasing visibility of research output, improving research output, supporting human capital, and I'll talk more about that, supporting human capital, and at the end of the day, also supporting innovations. So when you talk about open science, basically what you're saying is that research needs to be accessible. It needs to be open. The fact that funders are government, funders who happen to be government institutions are providing financial support to conduct research, it means that that research is paid by taxpayers. And if it is paid by taxpayers, it means that it needs to be accessible to everyone. And I'll take you through how that is important and how it supports the global community, and also why it is important for us to embrace open science. So when I look at it from a big picture, it's actually a digital disruption, because as I said in the beginning, research has always been behind closed walls, in the jargon of higher education, we call them paywalls. So research has always been behind paywalls, or rather closed walls. And because of that, we were not able to access information. And if you're looking at it even from a global South perspective, it was also difficult to see the research that is coming out of the continent. It was also difficult to own data because you could work with partners in the global north and still lose that data. So what is happening is that Open Science is giving everybody a leveling plane so that you can collaborate. You can also seek for funding competitively, but most importantly, for researchers in the global south, innovators in the global south, even businesses in the global south can take advantage of Open Science to increase their visibility. And we are seeing a lot of that happening right now. And the 15 countries that we are working with as a center have all committed to Open Science. First of all, they've committed to spending at least 1% of their GDP in higher education. And because they're spending money, 1% of, at least 1% of their GDP in higher education and research and development, they want that research visible. They want to increase visibility, they want good quality outputs coming out of the country. And the only way that can be successful is through Open Science. So one of the existing challenges that we've always faced, and that led to the drive to Open Science, was that limited access to research makes it difficult for students or researchers to access information that is relevant to them. So they end up using what information that is available, which might not necessarily be good quality. So the fact that we have Open Science, it means that they have access to information that is relevant to them, and it will also help in increasing the kind of work they're doing. So when you're talking about researchers, think of that master's student who is writing his thesis or her thesis. Think of that PhD student who will have to write a scientific paper. It is not easy to do that, to go through that academic writing process if you're faced with paywalls. Also look at it from a university's perspective. Whenever we are quick to crucify universities, we need to understand that a university thrives on 3 pillars: infrastructural support, human support, and data. So infrastructural support, you're looking at laboratories, you're looking at buildings. If you're looking at human support, you're looking at lecturers or whichever consultants that support the university. But then when it comes to data, it is the research and the information used to conduct any kind of scientific work within the university, whether it is social science or biological science. So if this information is behind paywalls, what is the likelihood of producing good quality research output? So Open Science has become such a game changer for universities in the global south, and by default, help researchers produce good quality output. When I say researchers, think also MBAs, those are researchers, produce good quality output, and by default improve, support human capital that is coming out of the university. So at the end of the day, you're looking at Open Access or Open Science is able to support education, and it is not limited to what is just shared with, is not limited to what is in the paywalls, but it is open to everyone who can access it and who can use it effectively. So why is this digital disruption important? I call it as I said, I keep on calling it a digital disruption because Open Science, and when I talk about Open Science, it's the philosophy itself, okay? So Open Science is everything that surrounds the openness of scientific knowledge, whether it is infrastructure, whether it is publications, whether it comes to funding information, whether it comes to data. So that is what Open Science entails. So that entire philosophy tries to return scholarly publishing to its original purpose, which is to spread knowledge and allow the knowledge to be built upon. So you want people to access this information readily, and you want a situation whereby even business people can ask, how is the University of Nairobi performing? How much funding did they get? And before, you wouldn't be able to get this kind of information, and I'll share that with you, and I assure you, thanks to Open Science, you can get this information real time. So from an institutional perspective, you're able to make strategic decisions. From a government perspective, you're able to make well-informed strategic decisions because you have access to data, which otherwise would not have been availed to you, thanks to paywalled information. So what does Open Science do? Who does it benefit? Let's start with researchers. Open science benefits researchers because it supports them in increasing their visibility. They become much more efficient because you can use, thanks to open science, you can have quite a bit of collaborative solutions, and you can work with researchers in the global north and the global south, and you don't lose your data, you know, which has always been a big problem for researchers. It is easier to get funding because they are seeing your work. Funders are seeing your work. It is easy to collaborate and network. What about for funders? Open science helps, it supports funders in making their return on investment greater, because when a funder gives money to any institution or individual to conduct research, they demand research outputs. And when I talk about research outputs, they expect you to go to conferences, they expect you to publish your work. And if you put your information in open access platforms or open science platforms, the world sees it. So from a return on investment perspective, funders see that taking advantage of open science. And that is why, in this case, when we narrow it down to the continent, those 15 countries that have committed to spending at least 1% of their GDP in higher education and research, they know because of that, the world will be able to see the research coming out of the country or their respective countries. And these governments also will find, it will also be easy for this government to also attract funding for research as well. So it is a win-win for everyone. How does open science support non-governmental organizations? You also, you're able to have enhanced access to research because you have access to data. It is because of, also through access to open access data, you are able to improve and have effective advocacy and lobbying, all right? What about to the general public? Faster knowledge transfer, and COVID-19 is a classic example. When COVID-19 hit in March last year, literally 3/4 of the research output on COVID-19 is open. And because of that, vaccines were churned out faster. We are finding out new strains on COVID-19. We are trying to figure out better ways to manage this pandemic because it was open. So the power of open science benefits the general public at the end of the day. You're able to promote engagement in science and research. You become part of the discourse. Open science makes it possible for the layman to interact with scientists, for the layman to interact with the government, because you have access to data, especially when you want to find out where is this money going, is based on the funding that you're giving, you're providing for the research that is being produced for the country. So if you look at the Big Four agenda in the country right now, it is so easy to find out where that funding goes, in what research projects are based on the Big Four agenda. Before, we didn't have that kind of information. But thanks to open science, you have access to that data, you have access to the outputs, and you even have access to the collaborators. So even the industry partners who are involved in working with the universities or research institutions to meet the Big Four agenda. So it is such a win-win situation when you have access to open science. So when you look at how it also benefits national governments, it supports, thanks to access to data, government institutions can make evidence-based policy. Before, they used to have to buy this data, but this data is now available. So when I talk about data, we're looking at research output, we're looking at funding information, collaborating information, and this supports the entire sphere. It supports the entire policy sphere within the government. And you're able to promote human rights and democracy. And you'll ask yourself, how is this possible? Open science falls under SDG 4, because under SDG 4, with equitable access to education, the foundation to equitable access to education, as I said, is infrastructure. Infrastructure, human capacity support, and data at the end of the day. So it is part of SDG 4 as well. Now, let's look at the human capital aspect of it and how open science comes in handy. The most expensive program I'll look at two universities, Strathmore University, and I'll look at the University of Nairobi. So I'm narrowing it down at the human capital perspective. So the most expensive the cheapest master's program at Strathmore University costs about $5,300, 530,000 Kenya shillings. The most expensive program is $18,000, so 1.8 million. And a PhD at Strathmore University is about 28,000 US dollars, so 2.8 million. Whereas the cheapest master's program at the University of Nairobi is $2,000, that is 200,000, and the most expensive one is $8,500, about $850,000. The cheapest PhD at the University of Nairobi is about $5,000, about 500,000 Kenya shillings, and the most expensive is about $11,000, so 1.1 million Kenya shillings. So you'd want to ask me, why have I chosen this? Because University of Nairobi is the leading research producer in Eastern and Central Africa. And how can I justify that? Between 1958 to this year, yesterday, not actually this year, yesterday, they have produced 9,805 research papers. Initially, we'd always ask ourselves, where are the publications of the University of Nairobi? Thanks to Open Science, you can access this. What does it mean for the university? It means that they also have to hold themselves accountable, because the society can see the research that they're doing. They can see the publications that they produce, the collaborations they've managed to attract, the funding they've also attracted. And I'll share with you also that information. The aggregated funding the University of Nairobi has achieved in the last 9 years comes up to $340 million US dollars. Okay, you don't have had this information if you do not have access to Open Science infrastructural systems. Strathmore University, Strathmore University's publication output. Remember, it is the top private university in Kenya. Is at 316. It's a young university. So this is between 2005 and yesterday. Now, and the aggregated funding it has accumulated over the last 9 years is $43.7 million. Now, why is this information important for you? Supposing you want to work with any of these universities, you'll need to have some of this data, okay? You need some of this data to figure out, okay, what contribution can I add to the university? If you're an industry partner, this information completely comes complete with not only the research output, but also the collaborators they've worked with, whether it is industry partners or other universities. It also comes down with, it's broken down with subject to subject area. So if it's broken down by subject area, you as an individual or as a partner or a possible private sector partner, you already come armed with information to see how best you can contribute to working with the University of Nairobi. And it's one of the reasons how we ended up partnering with the University of Nairobi, because one of the things we noted was that there was a need to build capacity in scholarly and scientific communication. You have access to that data, so it is easy for you to create partnerships. And with this kind of information, the University of Nairobi, you can clearly see is that they are investing in quite a bit of collaboration so that they can build their human capital. Access to Open Science, and if you look at the research output that is coming out of these institutes, you can see they're really trying to push that the research output has to be in Open Science platforms. This helps in increasing their visibility. It makes it easier for them to seek funding, whether it is national or international. Now, how does Open Science benefit students? It gives you a complete education because you have access to information to do research. From a professor's perspective, it means that professors have information that they can readily use to support their students. Because if the professor can't read it, they can't teach it. So with Open Science, they have access to this information, which they impart to their students. And it makes it easier for these students to produce good quality research outputs. At the end of the day, when I say research outputs, think thesis to scientific paper. So at the end of the day, the university is able to produce good quality students because they are able to be critical thinkers, because they had access to information. They had a robust access to information to conduct their research, regardless of their research area. Benefits to researchers. So when you're looking at researchers, think of the Kenya Marine Fisheries Institute, think of the Kenya Agricultural Livestock and Research Organization, think of KEMRI, think of those research institutes. How does it benefit them? Better visibility and high impact for scholarship. That is number one. So it increases the output. So you want to see how is, I always get these questions of, I always get questions regarding to how are the research institutes performing in Kenya? With access to these open science solutions, you're able to literally see the research output coming out of the research institutions, the top Kenyan researchers. And since we are a women's organization, you can even break it down by gender and see the top women researchers, okay? And the funding they've attracted, the amount of collaborations and networks they have built based on research. This kind of information is extremely important because it helps in the networking of these women researchers or researchers in general. And the most important thing that open science helps with researchers and also research institutes is that you avoid duplication. Because this information is out there, you stop reinventing the wheel. So you build up on what already exists. Now, what about for doctors? Okay, more knowledge leads to better outcomes. And also, I'm not saying that you will become a WebMD specialist, no, but as a patient, the fact that these publications are available online, okay, you are able to have various views regarding some of the diseases that maybe you're being treated by the doctor. You're able to have a better conversation with your doctors instead of just receiving just information. You end up having a fruitful discourse with your doctors because you have access to this information. Remember, knowledge is power. Knowledge was initially being locked up, but thanks to open science, you're able to have these conversations with people who are managing your life, in this case, doctors. So in the event of misdiagnosis, you're not heavily reliant on what the doctor is saying. You have access to this information, which you can discuss, okay? Which you can actually even prevent as well. So open science also helps the medical field, especially, and also helps the recipients of the medical field, in this case, patients as well. COVID-19 and open science. As of today, over 500,000 publications have been produced. But this is between last year and today, have been produced on COVID-19. Over 500,000, okay? This year alone, African scientists have produced over 748 research articles on COVID-19. And all these are open access. All these 500,000 publications, I'm telling you, are open access. What does that mean for us? It means that we have access to this information to contribute to the discourse in finding solutions in managing COVID-19. Because of open science and open access, we are actively engaged in the whole process of what is needed or required in managing this pandemic. You don't necessarily have to be an expert, but as a layman, you are part of that process. And that is the power of open science. Open science has effectively made it easier for us to churn out solutions in managing this pandemic. Vaccines, variants of vaccines, even when there are side effects, this information is open knowledge. You'd rather have the discourse on the side effects than silence. So COVID-19 is a classic example of the power of open science, particularly when it's connected to global development. So the benefits of open science to developing countries. Kenya is a developing country. Is a developing country. The fact that for the longest time, early career researchers in this continent could not afford, even countries could not afford data to conduct research, it meant that we were lagging behind. We are 1.3 billion in this continent, and 0.1% of our research is visible. Not because we are not conducting research, it's because we do not have platforms to increase our visibility. And Open Science has actually leveled the playing for us as a continent in increasing our visibility. I've just shared with you the number of research output that we've produced just on COVID-19 this year. Before, it would have been difficult to see this, but Open Science has leveled the playing for us as African researchers or researchers in the global South in increasing our visibility as well. Even when it comes to language, we are coming from a continent that has over 2,000 languages. Okay, and what Open Science has effectively done, it has brought this out to fore because there are countries whose national language is their traditional language, like in Nigeria or Ethiopia. And research is still being produced in those respective countries, and it is written in those respective languages. But thanks to Open Science, we are seeing that work. We are seeing that work. All what is needed is translation. So Open Science has given us a leveling playing to join the seat with all the major players in research globally. So when we are looking at the public and how Open Science has helped the public, you need to look at it from a return on investment perspective, okay? You as a taxpayer are inadvertently paying for research, okay? So it is your right to access that research, okay? Not go through a paywall and now pay extra fee to access that research. So Open Science is literally breaking those walls so that the Jane Does and the John Does can access this research. It's no longer a privilege. Open Science has broken the privilege, and I'm putting that in quotes, has broken the privilege of what science used to be considered. Science is for society. Okay, science is part of society, and Open Science has helped in doing that. Because at the end of the day, what am I saying? You are investing in yourself. You're investing in your children, and by default, the future, who would be the leaders in our country. And Open Science has helped in leveling all that entire process. Instead of taking your children abroad, we invest in our universities, and with Open Science, we end up producing good quality students. We end up supporting our universities in having better infrastructural systems and human systems thanks to Open Science. And then you end up having critical thinkers being produced from the university because they have access to resources, access to research, which otherwise they wouldn't have had before. So we are investing in our future through Open Science. And as I said, this is part of the SDGs, because through Open Science, SDG 4 helps in ensuring inclusive, equitable, quality education, and it promotes lifelong learning and opportunities for all of us. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to me. Susan?
Sorry, I hadn't unmuted. Well, thank you so much, Joy, for that. A lot of insights into Open Science and also the benefits. So I'm sure for those who really didn't know what it's about, why is it crucial? Why do we have it? Why do we have to talk about it? We're able to get answers to those questions. So I have a question of my own concerning the same Open Science before we jump into what has been posted on the chat box. So can you share some of the... Hello?
Susan, sorry to cut you in.
Yeah.
We have Dr. Justine Odhiambo. I would like her to comment on Joy's conversation because she may need to leave soon. Then we can get into our usual Q&A. Dr.
Okay.
Josephine Odhiambo, please, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Nana Wanjao, Chairperson of Commonwealth Business Women's Network Kenya and Chief Operating Officer of Commonwealth Business Network International, based out of London, which today we access with the touch of a button. I'm sorry, I'm in a poor lighting zone. In a few minutes, if I can move, I shall put on my camera. But in order not to distract you, I will remain without video. I just want to thank Nana for putting together this afternoon's discussion. As usual, she continues to lead us with innovation, with energy, and also with guided direction towards opportunities within the Commonwealth Network and beyond. And it's at that point where I will speak a little bit. I am, as you might know, the Honorary President of Commonwealth Business Women's Network Kenya, and also advisor to the board of CBW International. But more than that, I have served as Deputy Secretary General of the Commonwealth. I'd like to reflect on our conversation today. I see that we are very many women represented here online. This is indeed a joy in the advent, first of all, of the recent nomination of potential Chief Justice Martha Koome, whom we celebrate, but also because the Commonwealth celebrates women and does this not only through our business network, but through the programs that the Commonwealth has on women, programs on young people, including women, on health, on governance and political participation, on the issues of climate change, and on trade, one of which, of course, is the mandate that opens up Commonwealth Business Network International and Kenya. I'd like to let you know it stands out as being one of the very few multilateral institutions where we have women in leadership. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II being the most prominent, and of course, the head of the Commonwealth, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Patricia Scotland, but also across the Commonwealth, a number of heads of government, prime ministers, and senior representatives of government. So it's a joy that we're able to then focus on empowering women, like Nana has said, through trade, through talent, and through training. I want to come close to our topic today and say that it's been a delightful and very informative discussion, and we can see the benefits of open science, I myself being a scientist in many sectors. I'd like to even build further. In the area of COVID-19, I'd like us to remember that this global pandemic spans several sectors, and health is important, but would not be the only intervention or area where open science and beyond it would be potential for communities, universities, and industry. And those are the three arms that really look towards the use of science. So I'd like to invite us to speak about legal frameworks and how these have been modified during the COVID-19 pandemic, and how researchers would look at whether the enforcement of these frameworks have improved access, services, and engagement at community level. I'd like us to look at design and engineering, and look at software engineering, the virtual environment and the physical environment, and see what open science has done during COVID-19 to improve access again to communities, academics, and industry. And having said that, I really want to thank Joy for beginning this conversation, which I hope we can take a step further. And in order to do that, I'd like to introduce my colleague and friend, whom I have brought to the meeting. She will say a word and then perhaps later intervene from her official title. Her name is Maria Rariera. I can see her online. Marie is a member of the Council of the University of Nairobi. She's a scientist in her own right. She's very, very knowledgeable about open science, because not only is she a scientist, she's a specialist in the area of information technology and communication. I think it would really complement Joy Owango's remarks if you'd allow Marie Rariera to make her intervention at this point. Once again, thank you so much, Nana, and the organizers of this very informative session. I also want to acknowledge online Saum Siraj, who is the country chair for Rotary in Kenya. Saum takes care of almost 102 clubs with a number of wide sector projects and a team of Rotarians from business, academia, professional life, community life, welcomes home to this conversation. Over to you, Marie, and thank you once again, Nana and colleagues. Please allow Marie 2 or 3 minutes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jambo, Josephine. I think first of all, I'm very, very delighted that I joined this conversation. And I think it takes place every Wednesday. I'll commit myself, as I think Susan mentioned. I also just want to commend Joy for the coverage on open science and how relevant it is with access to information globally and locally. I think you focus on capacity building, and I think capacity building investment in human capital in open science is important. Why do I say so? I think for the past few years, I covered a few countries in Africa, 13 African countries working on education with 11 universities that included Jomo Kenyatta University and University of Nairobi before joining University of Nairobi as a board member. And privately also, I'm a vice president of International Center for Evaluation and Development. This center really focuses on data, on information, on how evidence informs decision-making and policy-making. But to do this, you need data and you need reliable data. And I think I have to think and reflect. What I did on the side, I just sent a question to Susan just to say, with respect to Kenya, I would be interested to know what are the key technical infrastructure required really to realize open science? And what about capacity building? What can universities, as Joy mentioned, University of Nairobi and Egerton, Nairobi and Strathmore do with respect to capacity building? I'm thinking of expertise that would steward data stewardship, that is the skills and knowledge required, and also data in science, looking at computer science, modeling and all that. I think with that, I don't want to go far and be boring, but I'm delighted to be part of this forum today. And more next time. Thank you, and God bless you. And I think what is important that you're highlighting is women in leadership and economic empowerment. That is pertinent and that is of great interest in my view. With that, I say thank you and wish you all the very best. Joy, Susan, I would like to link up with you and see how we can, engage more on this. Thank you. Thank you, Josephine, for this connection and invitation.
Most welcome. Back to you, Nana.
Actually, the credit for organizing this goes to Susan and Rose. You can see we have a great team in CBWN Kenya. Susan, back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Nana, for that. And thank you to Dr. Josephine Odhiambo and also Marie for joining in, and also for the amazing words and for all the comments that they've given us. Very, very critical. Now before I jump into my question, Joy, I would like to just repeat the same question that Marie posted, because she sent it to me directly. So the question is, specifically in Kenya, what are the key technical infrastructure required for open science? And secondly, what about human capital? High-level expertise required to develop and update open science. So there are those two questions.
Okay, so in regards to infrastructure, the beauty about open science is that it's about working on existing infrastructural systems, okay? So when Rose introduced me, I sit on the board of Africa Archive. Africa Archive is a preprint and publishing repository which sits on existing repositories. And it's a platform where researchers can put in literally all outputs, including videos and audios, especially for those who are in the social sciences. And it sits, and this repository is connected with international repositories. And these international repositories, through this partnership to the international repositories like Figshare and Zenodo, there are about 6 repositories. The output is, the ripple effect of the output is increased because the world starts seeing what coming out of the continent. So the infrastructural systems is based on working on what already exists. There are a lot of open access, open science infrastructural systems that can be used in promoting our visibility. The reality is that most of us do not know about this. This is why there's a lot of capacity building going on to create this awareness as well. And who are the key stakeholders in open science in Kenya? Let's look at Kenya, for example. My favorite are the key, I like calling them the gatekeepers of knowledge and access to knowledge. This is the Kenya Library Information Services Consortium, KLISC. If you're a librarian, if you're working in a university, any research institute, KLISC, the Kenya Library Information Services Consortium, has been pushing for open science. Before even we understood the concept of open science, they've been pushing for it. And now they are making sure that whatever information that comes into the universities, the kind of negotiations they're doing with, whether it's publishers, infrastructural providers, it comes through an open science perspective. In terms of also taking a step back with infrastructure, in Kenya, we have the Kenya Education Network, KENET, which is housed at the University of Nairobi, and it provides ICT infrastructural support for all universities in Kenya. And KENET is also pushing for open access and open science infrastructural systems because they understand the importance of having a robust network to support the university system. What about the capacity building in regards to open science? Now, what is going on right now is that the National Research Fund, which is a granting council based in Kenya, is pushing for open science. So the National Research Fund provides funding for research in Kenya. So Kenya is one of the countries that has literally committed to spending 1% of its GDP in higher education and research. And because of that, it has created a granting council, and it has mandated that every single research output that is produced based on the funding they give must be in an open access, or must be used in an open science platform so that the visibility of their output is increased. So what they're also doing is that they are working with partners, including us, in training researchers and universities on the importance of using open science and open access. So what is currently happening in sub-Saharan Africa, and I'm using Kenya as an example, is that there's a lot of awareness and training on understanding why open access is important and how it benefits researchers, such that that master student, because I like starting from there, that master student, by the time they are working on their thesis, they know that there are various research discovery solutions to support them in making them produce a good quality thesis. That PhD student, that postdoc student knows that there are various open access research resources to help them in writing a good scientific paper. And by default, through these open access resource platforms, it makes it also easier for them to publish their work and protect them from predatory publishing. So there's a lot of capacity building going on. And giving a talk in a platform like this, which involves quite a number of industry partners, also tries to bridge the divide and make industry understand why open science is why and how open science benefits industry, because at the end of the day, if you have a good quality student coming out of the university, it means that you have good quality human capital that can get into the industry force or the workforce. I hope I've answered that question, Susan.
Yes, I believe you have, because actually my question was actually related to the infrastructure So I'm actually happy that you've covered that pretty well. Let me also recognize a lady called Dorothy joining us on Facebook, who said that she's very happy about the presentation and the content because it's going to help her as she looks forward to doing her research. So she's very, very pleased about that. So thank you, Joy, for that. Yeah. So we do not have any other questions at the moment. So as we wait to see if you're going to have any comments coming in or any questions coming in, allow me to just reintroduce or to actually remind all the participants about some of the programs that we have coming up. So allow me to share the screen just really quickly. There we go. So as our chairperson has mentioned, next week we're going to be discussing the digital service tax. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. It was introduced and it was effective from the 1st of January, where the framework is for the digital marketplace considered to be a contributor to the National Revenue Kitty. So the tax authority is going to be taxing for all the digital content. And so we have an expert from the KRA who's going to talk to us and let people understand it more. A quick reminder on this as well, we've just been told about the Commonwealth e-market platform, which has been launched. So please tell all the women in your networks, all the girls, all the business people who would like to participate, come in, showcase their products. It's going to be a very, very exciting one. And last but not least, these are contact information. You can follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, Commonwealth Business Women Kenya. Send us an email, info@cbwnkenya.org, or visit our website to learn more about all those programs. I hope that you'll all be able to participate. Please tell everyone, especially the women and the young girls. We want them all to come in and benefit. So I have another question from Saum. And the question is, what is the uptake of science by women in our country? And she's asking because she runs a medical supplies business and getting ladies as biomed engineers and lab technicians is difficult.
Okay, so there's a platform called Dimensions, which has the output of all the researchers coming out of the country. And you can break it down by research area, and you can get their publications out with the collaborations and the funding they've also got. And you can literally get their output, and you can use that as a case when you want to identify potential women researchers that you want to work with in the biomedical services. So this, if you can allow me, I'll share my screen so that you can see what I'm talking about, because when you have access to this data, you're able to make some of these decisions much easier. You can easily make these decisions and make strategic, make an informed based decision based on the fact that you have the information on these women researchers. So let me share this with you right now, and it's opening. And the reality is Dimensions is not the only solution that's available. There are quite a number of open access resources that you can use for research discovery to find out who are the top researchers coming out of the country, and you can break it down by subject area. So these are the trends happening, the global trends that are happening in higher education, and it's such a game changer. It's not necessarily for higher education, but it is also something that it's such a game changer also in industry for those who want to work with those in research and in the higher education sector. So I am sending you the link right now in the chat, and just even for context, if I'm able to share, I don't know whether I'm able to share. There we go, and I'm able to share, and this is the platform. I hope, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, we can.
So this is all about it, and these are some of the open access solutions. So, for example, you're looking at Kenya. So we will go to Kenya, and you want to see who are the top, just for context for everyone else. How is Kenya performing in terms of its research? And this is an open access, this is the power of open science. Before, we never used to have all this information, okay? So this is the research output in Kenya. We have produced over 54,000 publications. And there's one as recent as this year. So if you want to break it down, Saum, as per the research areas that you're interested in, you just go here and go to the research categories and break it down and say, okay, fine, I'm interested. Yours was in the biomedical sciences. So I can say health, okay? Or even clinical services, or even, let's say just the medical sciences. And then you want to see who the top authors are, and you can use that, and there you go, the top researchers. And you have the top researchers. You see, this is on Kenya, on the medical sciences, and these are the top researchers. So you can just now break it down by, okay, let's say those who are only working in Kenya. Because of collaborations, you have researchers from the global north as well. And these are just strictly on Kenya, and you just narrow down. And Professor Elizabeth Bukutsi is actually Kenya's top woman researcher with over 374 papers. And you can narrow down and see how much funding she's also brought in, okay? So, and you see it shows the institute that she's coming from. So you can literally narrow down the top 100, top 500, depending on how narrow you want that information to be. So this platform exists. These are open access platforms, open science platforms that exist in supporting us in making informed decisions on research discovery or looking for potential collaborators. I hope, Saum, I've been able to answer your question.
Yes. Susan, I would like to say something. Thank you.
Yes.
Joy, I mean, this is music to our ears when it comes to research and data. And just for your own information, Joy, in 2019, CBWN launched a 10-point plan on how to increase opportunities for women to trade internationally. Point number 7 talks about data, and it says, there is an urgent need to systematically collect accessible, comparable, and measurable gender disaggregated trade data. This can be used to inform, develop, and monitor government policies and the support development partners provide in promoting gender equality in trade-related issues. So this topic today for us is really music to our ears, that now there is open science which is going to make data available for free to all of us. Thank you so much, Joy. Susan?
Yes, yes, thank you so much, Joy, for that. And yeah, I saw a comment from Saum that she's very, very thankful for that you shared the same, which is going to really, really help her. And also a comment from Marie where she says, verifiable use of data and research findings or evidence is essential to the creation of reliable knowledge and effective policy. Yeah, so she's basically echoing what you have just been talking about.
Yeah.
So we do not have any other questions coming up, and I think we're coming to the end of our session this afternoon. I know we never, sorry. It's okay. Yeah, so we never actually want the sessions to end. We always have such a good time as we learn.
Maybe you can mute everybody.
Yes. Yes, I think it was Marian. Okay, it's good. Yes, so yeah, so we always have such a good time as we learn, but unfortunately sometimes, you know, the good times have to come to an end. And I think we're coming to the end of our session this afternoon. But before we finish up, I would like to welcome Mweni, who is a member of the Programs and Trainings Committee, to just give a recap and a closing remark and also a vote of thanks. Mweni, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Susan, and thank you very much for everybody who has joined us today to learn and to get words from the expert around open science. I think this is it's information that is very timely. looking at what I've engaged in in the last few years, we've seen us look for data or try to do our research. Yes? Sorry about that. We've seen ourselves look for data or come to develop research paper documents that are either one, with old information, or two, with information that we could have obtained, but we did not know about that information. We've also noticed that people end up having, or organizations end up having to redo a research that has already been done. I think this information and open science philosophy is clearly timely, and it is multi-sectoral and benefits both locally and international people, researchers who would like to get information from that. And this brings, open science brings visibility and accessibility of relevant information, which scholars, organizations can be able to make strategic decisions and draw objectives that are very well informed. Thank you very much, Joy, for this information that you have brought to us. We are very, very grateful. And thank you, members, for coming and showing up for our meeting today. It is usually hard information to get. And if you can come and be a member of Commonwealth Business Women and get this information without having to pay tuition fee, I think that is a very big achievement that we are giving our members, and we are also benefiting from the experts around the globe. So thank you very much, Joy. Thank you very much, members, and thank you very much for all the viewers we have on Facebook and the viewers we have on Zoom. Karibuni sana and asanteni sana kwa kukuwa na sisi. Thank you. Back to you, Susan. Sorry, my camera, I had to hold the camera for a bit.
Not to worry about that, Winnie. Thank you so much for those remarks. Yes, and as we come to an end, reminder again, please follow us on Facebook, Commonwealth Business Women Network Kenya. Visit our website, www.cbwnkenya.org, to get access to all the information, especially where the programs are concerned, especially the summit, the Women's Entrepreneur Summit, and also the program that we are going to have next week on the digital service tax. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's continue to keep safe, keep social distance, wash your hands, sanitize, put on your masks, all those things that we keep on being reminded. As we all know, things are not very, very pretty out there. So let's continue to do that. And I hope to see you all next week as we continue our discussions, which, as we said, are usually about what our members need, the training needs of our members. Hope that you'll be able to join us as a member if you're not. And yes, we'll see you all next week. I wish you all a very, very beautiful day and a very, very fruitful remainder of the week. Goodbye, everyone.